Netflix just released yet another brand new One Piece Season 2 teaser, and I wanted to watch it right away and give you a first general analysis. What we saw in the teaser, what kind of vibe it gives, and how much the teaser answers the question, can Netflix really pull off this season? But let me say this from the very beginning. This will be a general teaser analysis tomorrow. We'll also go scene by scene, breaking down which scene belongs to which arc, which characters appear, what they changed, and what they adapted one-to-one. Before we get into the details, we're dealing with serious algorithm issues on YouTube right now, and our videos are not being recommended like they used to be. So liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and leaving a comment are incredibly important to me. Your support genuinely means a lot. If you're ready, let's begin. I watched the teaser the moment it was released, and the very first thing I felt was this. Netflix is taking this season seriously. You know that question we've been talking about on this channel for months. Can they really carry a second season? Well, this teaser gave the first clear, maybe yes answer to that question. You can't be 100% certain based on just a few minutes of footage, but the vibe is very clear. This feels bigger, more expensive, and more ambitious than the first season. When I look at the scenes in the teaser, the most reassuring thing for me was how close the atmosphere feels to the anime and the manga. The locations, costumes, overall color, palette, and the general feel of the world truly look like One Piece. There were moments in the first season where we said, okay, they pulled this off. But here it feels like they've taken it a step further. And that naturally puts your mind at ease, because keeping that balance during the Grand Line era was much harder. One of the things that stood out to me the most was the Baroque Works side. In the teaser, no matter how you look at it, we see almost 70% of this organization. Netflix didn't hide the main threat of the season. On the contrary, they highlight the core characters and key scenes as if to say, we took this story seriously. And that gives me the feeling that the dramatic backbone of the season is going to be solid. But for me, the real star of the teaser was clearly Robin. We see her so much that wherever you look, there's a Robin moment. And honestly, Lara Abova fits the character perfectly. The aura, the gaze, the posture, even in the teaser, she radiates Robin's cold yet charismatic presence. In some moments, she even gave me the feeling of this role was made for her. It really looks like her scenes will define the tone of the season. On the Vivi side, I can't fully say I feel the same yet, but I don't mean that in a negative way. Some characters take time to grow on you. Right now, based on what I've seen in the teaser, I can't say this is completely Vivi yet, but I believe that as we watch and as the actress settles into the role, that feeling will fall into place. So for me, the main takeaway isn't this season is going to fail, but rather this is a season that will open up as you watch it. When I look at the action side of the teaser, I can say this clearly. This season promises us a Grand Line that is bigger, harsher, and more dangerous. Zoro's fight scenes, the explosions, the chaos, and the overall camera work gave me the feeling that I'm watching something far more cinematic than the first season. It's like Netflix is saying, we've warmed up, now we're getting into the real story, and that naturally raises expectations. The feeling of entering the Grand Line is especially well delivered in the teaser. The Grand Line isn't just a new route, it's a tonal shift. While watching the teaser, I kept thinking, the adventure is getting darker, more political, and the danger is truly increasing. That's why I got the sense that this season will be a real level up season. Another detail that caught my attention was the quality of the effects and sets. The explosions, the scale of the locations, the environmental details, everything looks more expensive, more refined, and more premium. In the first season, there were moments that felt very TV show, but here, some scenes honestly felt like I was watching a feature film. And that makes me think Netflix has invested much more into this project. The fact that a large portion of the scenes we see in the teaser are familiar from the anime and manga is another big plus for me. It doesn't feel like they're in a let's just invent new stuff mode. That seriously reduces the fear of are they going to ruin the spirit. Especially the visuals from Drum Island, Little Garden, and Whiskey Peak really make you say, yes, this is the One Piece we know. Looking at the teaser right now, it honestly feels like it would take a major disaster for One Piece Season 2 to truly fail. Unless the acting turns out terrible or they make extremely wild changes, the chances of this season being generally well received feel very high to me at least, based on the vibe the teaser gives. For me, the biggest advantage of this teaser was how much it reduced my what if they mess it up anxiety. To be completely honest, it erased about 70% of my doubts. After the first season, everyone had that lingering unease, and this teaser felt like it was saying, you can relax. And that alone is a huge plus. Robin's scenes in particular clearly communicate the tone of Season 2 to me. It feels like a more mysterious, heavier, more political One Piece is coming. It's no longer just a fun pirate adventure. We're entering an era where hidden plans, organizations, and betrayals will be felt much more strongly. And Robin feels like the face of that change. The fact that Baroque Works is being highlighted so strongly is no coincidence either. This season's main threat will be Crocodile and his organization, and Netflix isn't hiding it. On the contrary, it's openly saying, look, this is the villain of this season, and that gives me the feeling that the dramatic weight of the Alabasta saga will be carried properly. Another important detail is Oda's active involvement in the project. His set visits and participation in the production of Season 2 are a huge trust factor for viewers who come from the manga and anime, because Oda is the person who knows the soul of One Piece best, and an adaptation he approves of is much less likely to turn into something completely nonsensical. What this teaser tells me is this: when this season ends, we will most likely be waiting for Season 3 with much greater excitement. In other words, Season 2 isn't just a season, it feels like a threshold that says, from here on, things are getting much bigger. Another important thing I noticed while watching the teaser is the sense that the characters are entering a much more mature world. In the first season, everything was more about adventure, fun, and discovery. Here, it feels like each character is carrying a heavier burden on their shoulders. Their looks, their posture, and the darker atmosphere all suggest that the Straw Hat crew are no longer just carefree pirates, but are being pulled into a much bigger game. Nami's scenes in particular convey this feeling very clearly. Even in the brief clips in the teaser, there's a visible weight on her face. She looks less like just a navigator keeping the course, and more like someone who is aware of the storm that's coming. And that makes me think the emotional weight of Drum Island and Nami's breaking points are going to hit hard. Zoro's scenes, on the other hand, clearly show that the action bar is being raised this season. His sword swings, his stance, the way he looks at his enemies, from what we've seen in the teaser, Zoro feels less like a flashy fighter and more like a truly lethal threat. And that makes me think the Whiskey Peak and Little Garden arcs will be harsher and far more memorable. Another thing that gave me confidence is the consistency of the visual language. Scenes don't clash with each other. The colors and lighting work together, and the environments don't feel disconnected. This makes the series feel like a planned, cohesive season rather than a collection of separately shot scenes. And most importantly, the teaser gave me the feeling that while watching this season, we won't constantly be thinking, what did they change this time? Because the scenes, locations, and character moments we see are largely familiar. So our focus will be more on the story and emotions, not on questioning why things are different. And for me, that's one of the most critical things in a One Piece adaptation. Overall, what I felt from the teaser is that Netflix now understands the One Piece universe much better. The first season was more of a getting to know each other and testing phase here. It feels like the team truly understands the rules, tone, and emotional core of this world. And with the transition into the Grand Line, the story needed to mature, and the teaser conveyed exactly that. It's already clear that Robin will be one of the most talked about characters of this season. Her presence in the teaser represents the mysterious and darker side of the series. Robin doesn't just look like a powerful character, she feels like the figure carrying the season's hidden plans and unanswered questions. The audience's curiosity about who she really is, what she wants, and which side she's on will be one of the biggest motivations to keep watching. Highlighting Baroque Works, this strongly also shows that the dramatic backbone of the season will be solid. This isn't just a villain group, it's the key to the political and emotional conflicts of the Alabasta saga. By openly showing the threat of this organization, the teaser clearly delivers the message. This is the main battlefield of the season. My current feeling is this: Netflix would have to make a really huge mistake to completely sink this season. Unless the acting is truly bad or they make radical changes that completely distort the story, the chances of this season being well received feel very high. The sense of confidence the teaser gives is the biggest relief for me as a One Piece fan. For now, that's everything I can say in terms of a general teaser analysis. Tomorrow, in the full scene-by-scene breakdown, we'll examine which characters we saw, which scenes belong to which arcs, what they adapted one-to-one, and where they made small tweaks all one by one. But today's teaser told me one thing very clearly: One Piece Season 2 is coming in strong. Have you watched the teaser? What was your first impression? Do you think Netflix really pulled it off this season? Make sure to share your thoughts in the comments. And as a final reminder, we're dealing with serious algorithm issues on YouTube right now, and our videos aren't being recommended like they used to be. So liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and leaving a comment would support me tremendously. See you in the next video.